Homestead. Welcome back to the channel. So we are at Thanksgiving week. I have a bunch of family coming in and we are going to have a great time this week. But if you are somebody that has a gluten intolerance, allergy, or celiac disease, this can actually be a very stressful holiday for you. Mostly because you start thinking about a traditional Thanksgiving meal and you're wondering, am I going to be able to eat anything? And that can cause a lot of stress, but I'm here to tell you that it shouldn't, and it doesn't have to be that way. So here, I wanted to first start out this video with a few tips for you on how to make your Thanksgiving meal gluten-free. And it's just some simple changes that actually make the whole meal gluten-free, and you don't have to worry about having two things of everything. We're gonna end the video with making a classic green bean casserole completely from scratch and gluten-free, so you don't have to worry that you can't eat the delicious green bean casserole. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a couple tips to start us off with. Number one, let's just start with the big elephant in the room, the turkey. Most people stuff their turkey with stuffing. And of course, if you're gluten-free, you cannot have it when it's stuffed with stuffing. Now, you can be a rebel and you can try and pick around to the pieces that didn't touch the stuffing and all of that. I wouldn't chance it, just don't eat it. So since I was young, what we have always done is we stuff our turkey with fruits and veggies. So we do oranges and apples and onions and garlic and celery, and we stuff it plumb full of that. It keeps it very juicy and moist inside, and then it gives you the flavor of all of those delicious fruits and vegetables. Nobody ever complains about having a turkey stuffed with fruits and vegetables and that it tastes different. It tastes delicious. Now you can do your stuffing in a crock pot. And I know it's not the traditional way in a turkey, but the entire family can eat the turkey just fine. And then if you are somebody that has a family member that still loves stuffing, they can have some stuffing in a crock pot and it tastes just as good. I have never actually had stuffing, so I don't actually make it for our family. Nobody in our family really cares too much about it. So I've never tried making one completely gluten-free, but it may be something on my list for next Thanksgiving, not this Thanksgiving. I'm on a time clock. The next thing that we'll talk about is probably the next biggest thing on a Thanksgiving table, and that is the gravy. Obviously, gravy is not gluten-free on a traditional realm because you use it with all-purpose flour to thicken it up. So two options here. Nobody can tell the difference, is either use cornstarch or a gluten-free all-purpose flour to thicken your gravy. We've done that for years and everybody just eats the same gravy. It tastes the same, it comes together the same, there's nothing different about it. Then you don't have to worry about divvying out your turkey drippings and trying to save enough for a gluten-free gravy and enough for a regular gravy. Just use all-purpose flour that is gluten-free or use cornstarch and it will work just fine. Okay, and then going along with our Thanksgiving meal, we have a green bean casserole. That is actually one of my husband's favorite part of a Thanksgiving meal is the green bean casserole. So I knew I had big shoes to fill when I was trying to make it gluten-free. For a lot of years, I just went ahead and made a green bean casserole with a gluten-free cream and mushroom soup that I make myself, and then topped it with like a oniony breadcrumb topping. It wasn't like the traditional kind, but he liked it just the same. It was good, everybody enjoyed it. Last year, I went completely from scratch, making the fried onions and everything from scratch and making them gluten-free, and it was 10 times better. So this year, I am going to show you how to make a green bean casserole completely from scratch. And then if you have to make it gluten-free, we can make the fried onions gluten-free. If you don't need to be gluten-free, you can still make this completely from scratch along with the fried onions, and your fried onions, you can just use all-purpose flour in place of a gluten-free all-purpose flour. Okay, so here is the final tip before we make our green bean casserole, and that is the pies. Of course, when you think of a traditional Thanksgiving meal, you think of pumpkin pie, maybe an apple pie, maybe a pecan pie, and all of that sounds delicious, but you're thinking to yourself, I can't eat any of that. You can. All you need is a good pie crust, and I have that on the blog. So I will link below my traditional pie crust that I use, and I use it for every single pie that I ever make, and it's very delicious. You want to make sure that you get a good all-purpose gluten-free flour. I like cup for cup or better batter. Even Bob's Red Mill makes a good one now. In the past, many years ago, I didn't like it. It was really grainy. I do like their 1-to-1 flour now. What I do in my own home is I make my own all-purpose gluten-free flour, and I share that recipe in my digital cookbook, which I can also link. And I just make my own. Mine is the most like a cup for cup. So if you are someone who loves cup for cup, you will likely love my all-purpose gluten-free flour. It does have dry milk powder in it, so if you're somebody that also has to be dairy-free, it's probably not the one for you. Okay, let's get to our green bean casserole. Okay, so while I'm going to slice my onions up here, let's talk about the oil. So on my stove, I have my cast iron pan, and I have about 2 to 3 inches of avocado oil in there, and I already have it on to heat up because you want your oil very hot when you make your fried onions. Now, there are a couple different oils you can use. You want one with a high heat point, so avocado oil, coconut oil, or even some beef tallow would be healthy, good oils that you can use to fry up your onions. Another option what I wouldn't do is I wouldn't do any kind of seed oil. So traditionally, things are fried in canola oil or some kind of vegetable oil. They do have high heat points, but they're just not healthy for you. So if you're trying to make something completely from scratch to make it healthy for your body, I would stick with either an avocado oil, coconut oil, or I would do a beef tallow or something like that. I always buy avocado oil on Azure Standard in a big jug by the gallon, and so I always have plenty of it. I know it's more expensive, but it does fry things up really nicely. It's healthy for our bodies, and you really don't taste any difference of the oil. Okay, so while I'm slicing my onions, you want to do this as thin as possible. So obviously not too thin that you don't have any onion there, but the thinner that you get your onions, the crispier they're gonna get when you fry them up. So I just have an onion here. It's actually a little bit less than one because I had one in the fridge from using a quarter of an onion, but it'll be fine. I'll have plenty of onions. And I'm just slicing them up as thin as possible. All right, I think I got enough here. The centers you can go ahead and just push off to the side because, I mean, you can use them, but I just prefer not to. I like to have the actual strips of onion. Now we're gonna go ahead and get our coating made up. I'm gonna set my onions off to the side, and I'm gonna take a bowl here, and I have 3/4 a cup of all-purpose gluten-free flour. I'm gonna add in 2.5 teaspoons of salt to it. I'm gonna add 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. And 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder. And then you're just gonna stir it up so that all of your spices get mixed into your flour. And now we are ready to fry these up. So let's move on to our stove. Okay, the first thing you want to do before you start frying is making sure that your oil is nice and hot. Now you can take the temperature of it with a thermometer and you can see if it is 340 degrees or higher, or you can take a little bit of water in your hand and you can hear that sizzle. You know that it's hot enough. The water is reacting to the oil. Be careful, don't get splattered. I just got my hands wet and went ahead and flung some water in it, and I know that it's hot enough. So what you're going to do at this point is you're going to take your onion slices and you're just going to coat them in your flour. And now I'm going to dust off any additional flour. You don't really want any extra flour on it. And I'm just going to put them right on in my oil here. You're gonna cook them for about 3 sides on one side, and then I'll take some tongs and I'll cook them on the other side until they get nice and golden and crispy. Okay, so we got all of our fried onions made up. I also went ahead and whipped up a batch of my cream of anything soup. I'll drop the recipe in the description, but you can use any gluten-free cream of mushroom soup. So this is just my one I use for any recipe that calls for a cream of chicken, a cream of mushroom, a cream of celery, anything. And I just use this cream of anything soup recipe. Super easy, it's a powder mix. I keep in my pantry or my cabinet down there, and you add it with some broth and it thickens up and it works just as good and delicious. Okay, so you're gonna take 2 cans of green beans. I can my own garden fresh green beans, so this is a quart-size jar, which is similar to 2 cans. And I drained them, and then I just dumped them here into this dish. Now, I'm going to go ahead and pour my cream of anything soup right over top of it. Stir it around to mix it all together. If you are using one that is kind of thick, you can put a splash of milk in to thin it out just a little bit. No need for salt or anything on it because your cream of anything soup gives you the nice flavor. Now you're gonna take your fried onions here and top it over the top. Give it a nice good layer. And there you have it, a traditional green bean casserole for your Thanksgiving table. And it is completely from scratch and gluten-free. Everybody will love it. It'll actually taste better than those store-bought French's onion that you top with your green bean casserole. From scratch is always better than store-bought, and so these don't take very long. The fried onions, I think it maybe took me 15 minutes total to fry up all of these onions. Doesn't take a lot of extra work, and it's so much better tasting and so much better for you. I hope that this video gave you some tips on how to make your Thanksgiving meal gluten-free, to not let this be a stressor holiday for you, and that you're still able to eat lots of traditional, delicious Thanksgiving foods. Make sure to like and subscribe to the video. I send out 1 new video every single week. Jump on over to the blog and put in your email address. That's where I share all of my printable recipes and anything like that. I also send out the video of the week there as well. And this recipe is also on the blog if you want it in a printable form. I will share that in the description as well. I hope everybody has a wonderful, happy Thanksgiving with all of their families, and we'll see you next time. Take care.